Alright lads, so today over on Bleach, Rebirth of Souls, we got some very exciting news, and news that I didn't expect to see so soon. Because one of the upcoming things for Bleach Rebirth of Souls is going to be the Season Pass, which will include 4 characters from the 1000-year Blood War arc. And for today's video, we pretty much have confirmation almost on who the characters are going to be. And keep in mind that since we are talking about data mined information, I don't want to provide any images just in case Bandai are actually strict about this. But I will leave a link in the description below to Sergio's video, as he was the one to break this news. But for those that are wondering, the 4 DLC characters seem to be the first Kenpachi Yachiru Unohana, the leader of the Quincy Army, Yhwach, the leader of the Royal Guards, that being Ichibe Hyosube, and of course the main character himself in his new upgraded form, true Shikai Ichigo. Now, personally, right from the get-go, I'm super excited for all 4 characters, and in my opinion, this is actually a perfect DLC list. In fact, this was my prediction had I been able to make a prediction video. Again, I didn't expect to see these characters leaked so soon. And you're basically getting the best of everything here. We're getting a whole new character, but a character that was technically missing in the base roster, that being Unohana. We're getting 2 whole new characters, and characters that hold very big importance in the Bleach universe, that being Yhwach and Ichibe. And then we're getting a new version of a character already playable, that being Ichigo, but he is the main character, so it is understandable. And I think it's also worth mentioning, we don't know the current release schedule for these characters. I would assume it's every 2 to 3 months, and we also don't know the order, but I want to make an assumption here and assume that Retsu, Yachiru Unohana, is going to be the first character, while Ichigo is going to be the last one. I think it's best to save Ichigo as the final DLC character, since again, Ichigo is already playable in the game. Now, I also want to mention that I don't actually dislike Ichigo being included here. As with any fighting game with a limited roster, if a main character or a certain character gets multiple versions, there's always going to be that somewhat disappointment that they're maybe taking a slot from another character. And that's not entirely wrong, but it's the main character. Again, you can't do a 1000-year Blood War Season Pass without including the main character's new form. And that's at least, in my opinion, how I see things, and it seems to be the case because this is what Tamsoft is actually doing. So taking a closer look at each individual character, first up, Yachiru Unohana. In my opinion, she was a shoo-in for this DLC pass, and I'm definitely not surprised by any means of her inclusion here. When it comes to the current captains of the Gotei 13, we were only missing 2 characters, that being Retsu and also Jushiro. And in the case for Jushiro, the producer actually already stated why he wasn't included. In the context, Orihime was also brought up, and essentially both characters only really show their powers during 1000-year Blood War, which in my opinion doesn't really make sense. But the most important line is the fact that Jushiro and also Orihime didn't really match the fighting style for the game they were designing. And Retsu as a character was basically in the same camp as Orihime. So with her not being included in the base roster, with the fact that Yachiru Unohana, her being the first Kenpachi, is such a big deal during the first invasion, it's one of the more popular moments during the 1000-year Blood War arc, and as far as Bleach Brave Souls is concerned, the 2 times we have gotten Yachiru Unohana included into the game, they treated her as an anniversary level character. So Yachiru being included here is again, in my opinion, expected. In terms of what she is going to do, there's definitely a few things they can do with her. Throughout the entire battle, she's actually throwing a lot of blades at Kenpachi. Maybe she could have a very similar concept to Soifon's Anken. The big thing about Unohana is the fact that she is going to awaken into her Bankai, and this very well might make her one of the more unique characters in the game, because very similar to Kaname's Bankai, Unohana's awakening should cover the entire map / room with a bunch of bloods. And if they can't do that, that's going to look really cool, especially if she can use that blood as a way to attack the enemy from afar, very similar to what she does to Kenpachi. And considering how accurate these characters have been in terms of how their powers and moveset is played out throughout the series, I'd be very curious to see how they're going to handle the healing abilities, because technically during this moment, Yachiru should be able to heal herself. Likewise, at the same time, at least during the battle with Zaraki Kenpachi, Yachiru was also healing him, stopping him from dying multiple times. So it would be really cool, if possible, for Yachiru to have a very similar mechanic to Dangai Ichigo, where upon using a Kikon move, it doesn't actually remove any Konpaku, but instead, after getting 3 Kikon moves off, it just instantly wins you the game. In my opinion, that would be really cool if they can possibly pull that off with Yachiru. Although it will be a tad bit different here, because in this case, Yachiru can awaken, but maybe she won't. Maybe she starts off in the battle straight away using her Bankai. For our second character, Yhwach, again, no surprise here that he is going to be included. He, after all, is the final villain of Bleach, and if you are only going to do 4 characters for DLC, it's expected that the final big villain is going to be included. When it comes to Yhwach as a character in terms of how he's going to be played, there's a few things they can do with him. I assume he's going to be more of a melee character, with maybe some ranged attacks, through his signature move or spiritual pressure moves. And in terms of his awakening, there's 2 routes they can go. It really depends on what type of version of Yhwach we are getting. His first awakening could very well be the massive giant Quincy sword that he summons from the sky. This was the sword and attack that he does use against Yamamoto to take him down. That very well could work for a really cool awakening, especially where the animation could be played. But at the same time, since we are currently on Core 3 of 1000 Year Blood War, we very well could get some type of Almighty Yhwach. The problem with the Almighty version of Yhwach is that he hasn't done much with this form as of yet. But even so, they could probably make something up and they could probably make it work. So I think it's 50-50 on what Yhwach's awakening is going to be. Whether he's summoning his light blade, not really sure what you call it, or it's him activating the Almighty. Either way, this character is going to look super cool, and it's going to be really cool seeing Yhwach playable in a console Bleach game, which is something that I've always wanted, and honestly thought we would get back during Jump Force's DLC when they were doing 1000 Year Blood War characters. Now, Ichibe being the first character for this DLC, I think for some people might come as a surprise. I think he had a pretty good chance to be included here, and that seems to be the case. However, if his character got replaced with someone else, I wouldn't also have been entirely surprised. For me, from my point of view, Ichigo, Yhwach, and Yachiru were the guarantees, with the 4th character really being anyone. A Stunritter, Uryu's Vostandig, or maybe even Ishin. But of course, if you are going to do an important character from the Royal Guard, it has to be Ichibe. He showcases a lot during the anime, especially with his battle with Yhwach. I can already see it right now with his awakening being the white paint. Once more, very curious to see how his abilities are going to play out, because with Ichibe's Zanpakuto ability Ichimonji, he can change your name and remove your powers. So it would be really funny to see if somehow you can make them super weak, to the point that if they get a full combo off on you, it almost does no damage. That would be super broken, but we'll have to see how the character does play out. Maybe it could be time limited, maybe it is going to be tied to his spiritual pressure move. But yeah, in general, I can see Ichibe's awakening be the white paint, that being his technical Bankai. And then his Kikon move can easily be the Futen Taisatsu Ryo. That'll make for a really cool finisher. And going into our final character, that being True Shikai Ichigo, I've already seen comments about this character's inclusion and how he might feel potentially incomplete. Because if you are aware of what's coming up in the final season of Bleach, you will be aware of 2 forms that he is going to get. That potentially isn't going to be included in this character, and instead what we are going to see is him merely have a Getsugu Jujisho as a Kikon move or finisher, likely also have the very nonchalant Getsugu that he does do against Candice, I believe. They can easily make some really cool attacks, and he also should be maybe a ranged character. There's no guarantee that's the case, but having a ranged Ichigo would be actually really cool to see, and that would separate him from the other current free playable Ichigo characters. And then in terms of this character's awakening, this is where the character might feel a tad bit incomplete for some people, because likely we aren't going to see his Bankai or Horn of Salvation. There's a good chance what we are going to see is similar to characters like Shinsui, maybe even Kaien, where his awakening just makes him a bit more flashier and gives him maybe a new effect. We've already seen that characters' awakening doesn't actually have to transform them or to have that much of a visual change. And given that the final season of Bleach hasn't been aired yet, we haven't seen those other 2 forms, likely he won't do that in-game, but you never actually know. If they are going to save him for the final character, maybe there is a chance they do include that form that has yet to be animated. But yeah, in general, these are the 4 DLC characters. While we're at the end, some personal wants here. These aren't confirmed, but if they can be included with these characters, that'll be really cool. I think each character here, releasing alongside a potential free new map, will be really cool to see, especially because you can make some iconic ones here. With Yachiru Unohana's release, it will be very cool to see a Muken-styled map. The atmosphere in this map is actually really good and will be vastly different compared to the rest of the game. With Yhwach, we can get a destroyed grey Soul Society. With Ichibe's release, it'll be really cool to see the Royal Palace as a map. The Royal Palace looked great in the anime. I can only imagine what Tamsoft could cook up with their really good map design. And then with the release of Ichigo, getting the Silburn with the red skies would actually be really cool looking with the blue buildings. And it will also be a great way to kind of spice up the game, especially for those that maybe aren't buying the DLC characters but can play in these new free maps. The maps aren't guaranteed to happen, but that'll be really cool to see. So there you go. Those appear to be the 4 DLC characters upcoming for Bleach Rebirth of Souls. Again, we have no idea the order of release. These seem to be the most likely, and with them having files in-game with images, it seems like it's almost guaranteed. 99% chance to be them, and again, shout out to Sergio for the data mined information. In the comments below, let me know what you lads think about the DLC pass. What characters are you excited for? And I'll see you lads next time. Take care and peace.